Our Jasmine King spoke with Inclusion Lloydminster to find out what the organization is all about.
I'm joined here with Stacy and Sherry, and they both work with Inclusion Lloydminster. Now, for somebody who doesn't know, what is Inclusion Lloydminster and Inclusion Alberta?
So Inclusion Lloydminster is a nonprofit organization, and we've been active in the city of Lloydminster and surrounding area for over 60 years. So we were established by a group of primarily families and community members who wanted to ensure that our sons and daughters had the same opportunities as any other person to grow up in a family, to go to school, to have friends, to pursue interests in recreation, to pursue career development, post-secondary education, and eventually a home of their own and lifelong love and marriage, family. So essentially, Inclusion Lloydminster and our partnership with both Inclusion Alberta and Inclusion Saskatchewan supports families who have children and adult sons and daughters with developmental disabilities to achieve good, inclusive lives just like you and I would achieve in community.
And how would you say that Inclusion Lloydminster helps individuals with disabilities on a daily level?
So we work with families that have children and adult children with developmental disabilities on an individual basis, based on their hopes and dreams and what they want their children to be doing in community. The value base that Sherry indicated is that we work with families and individuals to be included in community and to be more included. So following a normative pathway, a pathway that like you or I would have, that you would, grow up at home, living at home with your family, being able to go to play school, being able to be included in your regular neighborhood school in a regular classroom with kids without disabilities, for kids to be able to be included in regular recreation activities in the community, such as soccer, gymnastics, dance class, whatever their interests may be. And for families and their children to be able to, think of what's typical as a teenager and what you do as a teenager and getting your first part-time after-school job, to graduating high school, to thinking around what's your career path after high school. And that entails, getting a job and working towards a career and going to post-secondary studies. And as Sherry said, to be able to think around, owning your own home. Well, first off, you live with roommates and then you figure out that you might want to own your own home. So home ownership, having the opportunity to all along the way, developing friendships and relationships with kids without disabilities and whoever in the community.
That sounds awesome. And why do you think it's important to have this type of program here in Lloydminster and just all over?
What we know really clearly is that individuals who have the opportunity for an inclusive life, so as Stacy said, right from growing up in a family to eventually attending post-secondary, if that's a dream that someone has, we know very clearly that someone who lives an inclusive life has better life outcomes. And what I mean by that is someone who lives an inclusive life lives longer, spends less number of days in hospital, has stronger communication skills, is better able to engage and read behavioral cues in social settings, are less likely to live in poverty, are less likely to experience abuse. So the life outcomes tell the story very clearly why an inclusive life is not only desirable, it's a necessity in ensuring the safety and well-being, and also in ensuring that we have a strong community. Our communities are better because of the contributions of people with developmental disabilities.
And has COVID and the pandemic had a big effect on what you guys can do?
I think it's had the same effect as what any other organization or any other family has had in our community. So it definitely has changed how we're doing our work, because so many kids have been learning at home, have been, doing virtual recreation activities. And, it's definitely affected the workforce that, people with intellectual or developmental disabilities are part of that workforce, that some people were laid off. And now that, there's reentry plans and that people are entering back in the workforce, so are those with disabilities as well.
And we kind of touched on this already, but this program, you really just want to get people involved and have a better life for maybe the chance that they might not have it. Do you think that these programs should be more common in communities around Canada and Alberta and all over?
Absolutely. The difference for us is that the support that we provide is really around capacity building. And so we focus on building the capacity of families to have a clear and sustaining vision. We focus on ensuring that community has the capacity to be inclusive. So it's really important that we draw the distinction that it's not about getting our sons and daughters ready and skilled up for inclusion. It's really about preparing community to be welcoming, to be engaged, and to recognize the contributions of people with developmental disabilities. And across the country and around the world, never has there been a greater recognition of the importance of diversity. And Inclusion Lloydminster really builds a foundation for that here, right in our own community, to inspire families, to interconnect families for that mutual support when things are difficult, and to really support community, whether it's an educator, a soccer coach, someone teaching swimming lessons, an employer who's saying, you know what, we really want to be inclusive. We know it's a better way. How do we do that? And so our support really focuses on the capacity for people to have the resources and the knowledge that they need to ensure that they're not only providing an experience, but they're really engaged in understanding the contributions and the benefit, both for the person with a disability as well as for our community.
And if anyone wants to contact you or get involved with Inclusion Lloydminster at all, how can they do so?
So there's a number of ways that families and community can connect with us. They can call 306-825-5918. They can like us on Facebook. They can check us out on our website, inclusionlloydminster.com. And they can watch for upcoming events. We host information sessions. Of course, with the pandemic, we're not doing things in person. However, there are still family sessions that are happening virtually. We'll be having virtual information sessions coming up. So for people to follow us and to stay in tune with those activities. And as Stacey really emphasized, our work happens on an individual basis as well, in supporting individual families and individual settings to really foster inclusion. So people can reach out and we'll either connect them with an upcoming session or provide individual support. And there are quite a number of initiatives in Lloydminster, right from recreation liaison support to inclusive education support that Stacey has referenced, inclusive post-secondary at Lakeland College, the Rotary Employment Partnership, and our Engaging Families Creating Good Lives initiative, which is right from individual workshops to family follow-up and sessions for community members.
Well, thank you both for joining me today.